Winston Churchill once said that we shape our buildings and thereafter our buildings shape us. And that is a factor in everyday life, how we go about living our everyday lives. Maybe we don't realize to what extent this happens, but it is shaped and affected by the built environment.
Interesting architecture helps to give a community a sense of place. It gives it an identity. It gives something that the residents of that place can call their own and be proud of. And when those pieces of architecture are easily identifiable by the community tends to claim them as their own and are proud to be a part of that community.
I would say the most outstanding thing about Tempe's architecture is its diverse continuity. It's a term that I like to use. In other words, there is a continuum of architectural development that we can see all within a fairly confined space.
The atmosphere in Tempe is one of more creativity than you might find in some other places, whether it has to do with the current makeup of the city government or the location of the university and the research and creativity that's coming out of it. But there seems to be this synergy of creativity and development going on around Tempe.
I'd love to talk about Tempe's significant buildings, and I think one of the most significant is where we're standing right now, the Tempe Center for the Arts. And it was designed by a local Tempe firm of Architecton in conjunction with Los Angeles firm Barton Myers and Associates, who've done performing arts projects around the world. And I think that partnership resulted in a certain dynamic tension where we're getting a creative product that was greater than had either one of them done it on their own. And again, as I mentioned, it went through an extensive community process, and there were a lot of folks involved in bringing the design to fruition. I think as a result of that, we have a very striking building that relates back to even to prehistoric building forms, as well as southwestern geological formations and mineral compositions. When you see the form of the roof, you see little faceted openings in the roof that are kind of like glow like a geode at night, and it's very interesting and exciting.
Well, certainly the old main building at Arizona State University, it was the original home of the Territorial Normal School, built in 1898, and obviously well built. It's still here over 110 years later. It's historic. It gives identity again to the university, and easily recognizable by those in the community and those who attend the university. And so obviously it's a building that is not only a good piece of architecture, but it also is an icon and a piece of history as well. Tempe has what is commonly known as the last public commission for Frank Lloyd Wright. It's Gammage Auditorium, Grady Gammage Auditorium on Arizona State University's campus. 30,000 seat performing arts center. And initially it was supposedly a design that he had developed for a performing arts center in Iraq, in Baghdad, Iraq. And when that didn't occur, his friend Grady Gammage asked him if he would be interested in building his Performing Arts Center here in Arizona, and he came and visited the site and said it would be a good location, and that's how we ended up with the Frank Lloyd Wright building on the Arizona State University campus, which is a pretty interesting piece of architecture. I think one of the more interesting aspects of that building are the flying buttress staircases that lead up to the upper levels of the building. They provide sort of an opening a set of arms welcoming you to the building, and ultimately they were welcoming you to the campus of Arizona State University as well.
We would of course have to mention Tempe City Hall, the Tempe Municipal Building actually, that was constructed in 1970. The upside down pyramid, as everyone knows it by. It was created by the local architecture firm of Michael and Kemper Goodwin, a father and son team right here in Tempe. The concept was to create a building that would be a lantern to the community, and representative of the fact that we have a democratic form of government that's open to all and not be a barrier to anyone in society. So you have a building that's all glass, And yet, even at that time, they were attempting to respond to the harsh environmental conditions by sloping the building walls inward so that they, in effect, shade themselves. And then the building's geometry is turned at a 45-degree angle to north and south so that basically the direct rays of the sun are always striking a glancing blow on the glass, and therefore it's more reflective. So even though in 1970 they didn't have some of the high-tech building materials that we do now, they were doing the best with what they had at the time. As well, the inverted pyramid form results in a large open plaza around the building on what would otherwise be a tight site. So it was felt it was important to have that civic community space next to the building.
Well, it's always interesting to actually see a piece of architecture in the flesh, if you will. We read about famous architects and their work, and you see pictures of it in photographs and images online. But it's always another thing to experience it in person, to actually see the light hit the building, to experience the materials, to feel what it's like to be in the spaces. But it's not only just something to view; it's something to use and utilize as well. So that's why it's a useful piece of art as well.